You are most welcome to this session, the third session of a series that's being conducted jointly by IAS and Arenina. This topic will cover agriculture, production, and food security of Turkey and Middle East under COVID-19 pandemic conditions. Our speaker for today is Dr. Ibrahim Ortash. Dr. Ibrahim Ortash is a full-time professor in the University of Cukurova, Faculty of Agriculture, Department of Soil Science and Plant Nutrition, Adana, Turkey. He got his PhD from the University of Reading, United Kingdom. At the moment, he is working on citrus, carbon budget, and carbon sequestration. Professor Ortash published 78 scientific articles, 18 books, chapter, totally, and over 490 articles. Professor Ortash is teaching ecosystem of root zone, plant nutrition, soil crop, and atmosphere relation with the climate change and soil management. Professor Ortash is also a prolific writer who has written over 1,060 articles on education, philosophy of science, and the environment and sustainable life. Dr. Ortash, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm very happy to talk to you, and also thank you for giving this opportunity to me. Actually, I am talking also not only by myself, also by the Ministry of Agriculture of Turkey. They offering me to give this presentation. So what I'm going to talk today, I'm just going to give an information about the food security, what is the food security, the importance of that one, and also the situation in the Turkey and Middle East and all over the world. Also the population, land, and food change with the time. Also, I will give some advice about the climate change, what's going to be happen related with this area, and maybe I can make some suggestion as well. I mean, to make better understand the situation. So, when we look at the, when we look at the general or perspective, where we are, well, actually, when we look at all over the world, we are here in the site of the Middle East, and I live in an Adana, south part of Turkey. This is my Adana city. Is the one maybe you know, and very close at the site of the Mediterranean sites. And agriculture of area is a very productive area. So where we are coming? Actually, recently we understand the life has already been emergent maybe in the Middle East, in the Göbekli Tepe around the Urfa city. We found very recently, maybe something like 15 years ago, and it has been founded by the archaeologues. And the world people, they started maybe 16,000 years ago around the area. And there's so much in Nemrut and the huge statues and the top of the 2,000 meters high mountain area. And we know the humans, they evaluated in this very fertile area. What is this fertile area? It means the fertile crust area is very closely starting from the Anatolia and the Middle East and several countries in this area. So what is the goal of the life? When you look at the goal of the life, actually, we don't know where we started, but from the beginning to the present times, the main demand of the mankind is to find sufficient food security and the adequate and shelf, and also to request the reliable to understand the life. So the global food security started from the soil and it is ended from the ordinary table. So what does it mean? We produce from the soil and we get from the, finally we reach from our table. From the soil until the dinner table, many interim processes such as the scientific, technology, economy, social, health issue, so many issues are coming side by side. The production problem is related with the biology and agriculture science, especially related with the agriculture. So when we look at these pictures, as I said, the life is actually starting from the soil to the old table. So in this bridge from the soil to the human, so many processes is running from soil and plant and animal and the humans, you know, different food section and so many things are side by side. When we say the basic food supply, you know, when we talk about the basic food supply and the basic treatments is the security, repeatedly increase the world population. Today is 7.8 billion, and it's a huge population. The global warming and the climate change recently is what we feel actually an agricultural land use in outside of the intended purpose, the repeat reduction of the clean water resources, repeatedly decreasing the yield and the quality of the food, even and the development, the income distribution of the wards, you know, the people and one side they're poor and one side they are very rich. On one side, people are eating too much and they have a huge obesity problem. On one side, you know, there is poor people. So when we look at the concept, there is a need depend of the knowledge of the several countries, and they should know that the population, how the population growth is rate in terms of the prediction. The planning is very important. Among the parameters, the population and population growth rate, it is one of the serious problem in terms of the food security. Because as I said from the beginning, the present time, the first our concerns is to find that safety food. So what does mean the safety food? I mean, when you look at our present, so from our past, from the present times, and the human population last 100 years, maybe 200 years, is speedily increasing up. And when we look at the largest population is in Asia, is mainly in Asia and Africa, and the developing country, they have a less population, but the technology, it is very advanced in those countries. Since there is a high increase in the world population and the food demand, and there is a huge pressure on the soil. So when we look at the area, we can find the population still the increase is very high, especially in Turkey, Iran, and maybe in Egypt, the population is high. But the increasing length is also so high. But when the population is increased, consequently, the food demand is getting greater. When we look at the world food production and the population growth, maybe it is running side by side, but in the one side, after the one side, the food demand is increased. And also, as we know, the population is it's growing up geometrically, and the food is growing and arithmetically. So it means the gap between human population increase and the food production is not equal to each other. So when we look at the population growth and the production, and also you can see here in Asia, there is a big gap. And the plant production is not as big as, and the food, the population growth. Yes, there is a big problem in the world, but especially in the Asia is so high. The differences between production and the population growth. So when we look at the world the continental food production and the population relation, again, we can see the Asia is problematic in area, especially in our area. When we look at the West change and the food change and population relation, we can see an 8.8 billion people, 5 billion is living in the poor condition, especially in the Asia, there is a big problem. At present, up to 1.2 billion people, they are nearly going to live in engaged regions such as Sub-Saharan Africa and Central Asia and the Middle East. Maybe in the last years, around 30 million people were forced today to leave their home and their environment. And because of this, in our area, especially recently, so many conflicts, people are fighting in Iraq and the Palestinian and Egypt and in Syria and also in Iran. And also recently people are they were talking too much about the Arab Spring times, but later on we found that there is so many problems behind is mainly, to me, it is an agriculture production, it's a food security problem. And also, of course, there is a management problem as well. And this, especially the population growth and the income insufficiency and the food requirement, it's made some other problem. When we look at the world, the world actually is not very very good for our human, especially for the poorest. 80% of the population is living in Asia, but especially the 80% of the world, they are getting 20% of the income, but the 15 or 20% of the Western society, they get an 80% of the world income. So this is not very actually acceptable. And the population in the 80% of the world, they are poor and poor, around 5 billion people. Especially the women and children are the major nutrition problem facing societies. Besides the insufficient food production, the imbalance of the food distribution in the world is the most serious problem. In some area there is a food, and some area people are not able to reach to the food. The imbalanced food distribution adversely affects the public health, especially in the developing country. The public health is getting more and more problem. This inadequate and unbalanced income and unbalance of the distribution of the food is make a problem, especially in the Mediterranean country and some other country. The production of the agricultures is because of the several reasons is a problem. The distribution and the dominant of the nature's area, climate change and soil productivity, and also the water deficiency, also they are the major constraint in this area. Due to the insufficient supply of the increasing demand in agriculture production, the prices of agriculture production is also getting increased. Because of the several reasons, the people around the whole area in Africa, in Asia, they try to move to the European side. Recently, migration problem, it's made so many social and unsocial problems, especially so many people are actually, they lose their life in the Mediterranean Sea and some other area. And also the Europeans, they doesn't accept the poorest people, they are coming from the Asia and Africa. And so many people, they lose their life. Actually, we are very unhappy, we are very sad about this situation. But this situation, the human movement is higher in the region or region. Land use change, it is one of the reasons. The climate change is one of the reasons, and the poorness is another reasons. All are, when they come together, and so many people, of course, they want to search another area. Look at these pictures in the Mediterranean Sea. Every time we can find so many people, and very recently, for the better life or to ensure their food security, the phenomenon of the immigration to the Europe has been increased from Asia, Africa to Europe and North America. And so many people, when the boat and the machine, when they turn over, they lose their life. It seems the mitigation is divided into two main reasons. One is the food security, water scarcity, and the population growth. The other one is people are trying to get a good life from the natural diseases and the flood, drought, hurricanes, raising the sea level, increasing the heat. Actually, those are under the climate change umbrella. So all they make a negative situation, a negative condition for the poorest people, and the people are not able to reach to the food. So very recently, nearly 8 to 9 months ago, when we heard that there is a COVID-19, and suddenly we found that the COVID-19 created a situation for the food. And we found suddenly in the several places, there is a food crisis. A long time ago, 16 International Institute, they published a report and they were talking about the food crisis. And now after this COVID-19, and then the United Nations said that 135 million people are exactly needed to get a better condition to get food and in the 55 countries. And those people are nearly, they are suffering from the pandemics, and those people are leaving the poorest country and the countries they have less productions. When this COVID has been become on our life, and everything has been changed in the last 8 months, and when the government, they tried to get some measurement, especially in Turkey, and suddenly we found it all in the United States and the developing country as well, and people was suddenly rushed to the market. They wanted to get more food. They didn't to look at some other equipment or whatever. They want to get food, to shelters, and to store the food. For what? Because they were worried about the situation, how long the COVID is going to. Still, there is in several places, so many people are losing their life. People, they don't like to touch to each other. Maybe under some area, people were not able to operate their agriculture at the beginning. But now the government make a decision, yes, you should go to the field, and the people, they want to work, or some instruments, they ask the people they should work. So in the many countries, and we found that people were rushing, they were crashing to get the food first. And really, and we found that this was not a good situation. Maybe we never found such a kind of the pictures all over the world, not only the Turkey and the Middle East, and the United States and Europe or whatever. Doesn't make any sense where you are. But the humans, they were rushing to get the food. So we found that this crisis of the COVID-19, has an influence on the low-income countries in the short term. It seems that the food security problem may be more severe than in the past. That's with the possible problem with the increasing population. I always consider about the population. So when you talk about the population and the food, what does it mean, the food security? Food security, it has been definited, and at all time have a physical, social, economic access of the sufficient, safe, and nutritious food that meet their food preference and the daily needs for an active and healthy life. Yes, we need it. Everyone has a right to get a safety food, to get a healthy food. But unfortunately, in the present world, It is not possible because of several reasons. One is the geography, and the one is the soil and the climate change and the human management of the life. We know those kind of things. Self-sufficient food sustainability depending of the several factors, but the first is depend on the planning. Within the after planning, according to purpose of the gross production, you need it, and your soil and crop and water management, water use efficiency, fertilizer use, tillage, and seed selection can all are make a possibility you should have a self-sufficient of food sustainability. And I will give you recently some pictures about some data about the Middle East and Turkey and some other countries. And there's so many places and there's so many societies and governments, they have not chance to have a self-sufficiency. The self-sufficiency, it is much more depend some other foreign countries how. I mean, maybe you produce something else and I produce something else. From the past, people are sharing something and passing this something. But now with the COVID-19, and there is a new situation. Maybe some country you will find they are not going to share their food with you. So it's a selfish word. But with the COVID, we found it. For example, Russia doesn't like to sell their wheat, and some other country, Asian, doesn't like to sell their rice. What they are thinking? Yes, the first I should keep my food for my society, later on for somebody else. So very recently, we know some country, China, and maybe some Gulf countries and some European countries, they want to get the huge land to buy or rent in Africa, in the Asia, but again, it's not a big solution. The size of the rainfall in irrigable land, and these are also important. Wet and dry agriculture is also very important to make a prediction, for estimation, how you can be a self-food supplying society. Well, I mean, first of all, let me give you some about the information about the Turkish agriculture and self-sufficiency. And also, I will go to the Middle East country and just make a comparison with the Turkish agriculture. And Turkey is a growth, agroecological diversity. There is a growth diversity and a range of the agriculture production. And we are in the first 25 plants are in the major. Turkey is producing over the 20 crops. A ranking number of the agriculture, aqua agriculture is compared to EU, where Turkey is a leading. Employment on agriculture is high, and cultivated area, it is reached nearly 24 million hectares, but recently this came to 20 million hectares. I will show you. The average size is so small, and Turkey is exporting nearly 1,500 different agriculture products to 177 countries. The agriculture production is nearly 50 billion Turkish lira, and all the export of the food and other things is 160 billion. So when you look at the Turkey have 7 main ecological region and 4 translation region. In terms of the agricultures, we have a Mediterranean and semi-arid climate condition. And now in the Turkey, we have 3,900 endemic plants species. So we have a different climate and plant species. Usually in Turkey, we have 75 fruits, plants are growing over the 138 in the world. And we have 60 different vegetables are growing in Turkey over the 200 and all over the world. So when we look at the overland and the field crop and mainly the 60 6% of the land is field crop, 70 is a fallow, and 3.4 and 3.5 for the vegetable, and fruit trees, they are getting nearly 14% of our land. So when we look at our soil, is maybe some soils are very close to Iranian and Iraq and Syrian, and because of the high pH, high calcium carbonate, high clay and soil structures, and iron and zinc and phosphorus deficiency, and maybe high salinity in the Middle East countries, the soils, and cool and forest. And in the Turkey, we have more than 40 different plants are growing extensively, especially for the food supply. And hazelnut, cherry, fig, and apricot, quince. Turkey is the leading and the second rank and third rank and four ranks and the five ranks. Turkish has different horticulture crops, and mainly not cherry, fig, and apricots. They are producing and large and exporting from outside. The greenhouse production is getting more and more recently, especially for the tomato, peppers, and eggplants. And the horticulture tree plants are mainly the citrus in our area is one of the major crops in the south part of Turkey, and the production is getting increased very recently, and are selling. And sometimes, of course, there is a politic situation I will tell you later on, and between the states. Well, when we look at the arable land and what we are producing very recently, and the wheat, barley, maize, sunflowers, cotton, and sugar beets, you can see, Turkey is producing nearly 20 million ton wheat the last 10 or 15 years, maybe 20 years. And barley production and maize is increased, and sugar beet is increased. And sunflower still, we have a deficiency. Turkey is one of the countries, they have a deficiency of the oil seed plants. So when we look at the animal production and the cattle and sheep and goats, and total production is increased since 2001 to 2019, especially the cattle and the sheep and the goats is increased because of the food production actually is important. The meat, milk, and chicken, and honey, egg, and honey, and the production from 2001 to 2019 is increased. Number of the persons and the per years, the production is still maybe is not very sufficient. It's still there is some neglected or insufficient situation compared to European people's feeding per person per day is getting the milk. I'll tell you. So all these production systems is depend on the land area and agricultural land and your animal potential and the land potential. So agricultural land owned by the countries and existence of the agricultural land per capita are also important in terms of the production planning in adequate determination. The existing land area and their size is so important. Look at all over the world, except maybe you can say in Japan, but in the United States and Canada and Russia and Germany and France and Netherlands, and all those countries are developed, yes, but also when you look at those countries, they are agriculture countries. They are depending on their income, it depends on the agriculture. I mean, all the still from the beginning to present time, all the technology also is developed to make a food security. Everything is running around agriculture. If you have a land, if you are producing, it means you are in a safe condition. When I look at this last 19 months, last 9 months, and I found that everything is running around the agriculture. Because if you don't have a sufficient food, maybe your machine doesn't make any sense. In the April and May in Turkey, 3 weeks, everything's shut down, and people, they never ever look at the, except the computers, they never look at the cars. If you have an airplane, what you are going to do? You have a Mercedes car, what you are going to do? Because you are not able to go outside. But people was looking for the food. And what people are looking for the fresh water. So such a condition in the futures, it may be erupts again. And that situation, we definitely need the food, safety food, and healthy food, and quality water, and safe water. All we need it. Definitely, it's a basic need. Later on, maybe car. Later on, maybe the huge building and the floods and whatever. But it is important. When I look at the Turkish land, and I can see, the Turkish total agriculture land from the 40 million hectare to 37 million hectare agriculture area. Also, it's coming from 26 totally million hectares and 23 million hectares. So again, we can find it, the land, the Turkish society, actually, they are badly managing their agricultural land. So much land now is so much construction, and the big city are growing, and the agriculture flooded land. So to me, it is not acceptable. So how about the situation in the West Asia, mainly in the Middle East? When we look at the pictures and from the old world, an agriculture-based production system with barley and chickpea, maize and soybean, and lentil, melon, sunflowers, and sesame, and the fruit trees. Okay, but the yield is actually, it's not as sufficient as we wanted, or it's not so high. Maybe some reason. The climate and soil and irrigation and fertilizer application are several things. The forestry is not too high, it's nearly 1% of the total land. Sheep, goats, and cow and camels, I will give you some data. It is the major animals we get benefit. Soil types and soil fertility is low. Soil miscellaneous exists, and the climate is arid and semi-arid, low precipitation, high temperatures, and the soil problem, water and erosion, salinization, chemical problem, all are, when we look at all regions, all the general characteristic of production systems. When we look at the our area, the mainland cover types, nearly 30% is area, it's a desert in the Middle East mainly. And the 30% is a sand dunes. The forage crops, and especially in the Turkey, because of the less management or mismanagement or bad management, the forage crops population, the area is coming down. When you lose your forage crops area, you lose your animal. When you lose your animal, you created a big problem, especially the animal food. It's getting scarce, and the people, they are not getting well fed, because the animal food is, especially the protein, is very important. But for this situation, the food security is mainly related to climate change, warming, drought, water scarcity, hurricanes, flood, rise in the sea level, all are make insecurity of the foods. And the natural diseases also. The 60% of the fresh waters has been decreased, and in the next 50 years also more yield we need to produce 50% of the more yield for the next 30 years, which is mostly due to growth of in the Middle East and Asia and African countries, because the population is growing high. When you look at the area, soil, organic matter, organic carbon level is so low. When your soil is poor in the organic carbon, organic matters, it means your production system is low, and your soil is not very secure to stay on the stable on the same places. So the organic carbon, organic matter is one of the major decision for the agriculture production. When you look at the Asia, and there is so many problems, high food prices, in all the countries. Look at this one. And people has a problem to reach and to purchase to get the food, especially the Palestinian, maybe in Pakistan and Myanmar, and maybe some in part in the Iraq and Iran very recently because of this, and Yemen also. And when we look at those Arabic area, and also in Turkey and other countries, really it's something is make me very unhappy, because the land change, and Lebanon, they lose very too much. Sorry, there is a mistake here, maybe. Something. Yes. And also, when you look at the Turkey, they lose quite lots of their land, and it's decreased, So that's very important, and some nation, they were not able to keep their agriculture land. When we look at the region, the arable land, agriculture land, cropland, arable land, and the forest area, you can see, especially in for countries, they are very good condition. For example, Turkey is at a good condition. Maybe Iran is good in these terms. Israel is keeping their soil and by management, and the other countries, some of them, they have a nearly very less agricultural land. When we look at the production and food production, especially cereal and fruits and pulse and spices, searchy root and sugar crops and vegetable oil and vegetable, and some country actually they are producing, and some country they have a less chance. For example, actually Iraq was very good, but recently because of those war and conflicts, they are not able to produce. And Syria also have a similar problem. And some country I can understand, maybe United Emirates and Oman and Kuwait, maybe because of the soil condition and the desert. But in Yemen and Syria and Iraq, as far as I saw, because of these conflicts, and people are out of the production system. When we look at the animal production, animal fat, and aquatic production, eggs, fish, seafood, meat, and milk, and when we look at those ones, and some countries, they are really less. United Arab Emirates and Oman and maybe Iraq, also they always have a deficiency. Turkey still is producing. Iran is still good, they're producing. Israel maybe, and Jordan is, in some sense, is quite good in the Middle East, and I can find it. The Jordans are using the technology as well. And the number of the animal, when we look at the camel, cattle, buffalo, goats, sheep, and chicken, maybe in the area, and you can see Iran and Turkey still, and some other country, Saudi Arabian and Syrian, they're still producing high, and Jordan, I can see this one, but some country, in terms of the total animal size, they have a problem. When we look at the gross domestic production per capita, and again from the 2019, yes, maybe in Saudi Arabia and Bahrain and Kuwait and Qatar, because of the petrol income, they have a United Arab Emirates, they have a huge income, but the other countries depends on the agricultures, maybe they are coming behind. And in the area in 2019, 43 million people are now under the undernourished in the Middle East. Especially the people, the poorest people, they are not getting proper food. But when we look at the protein supply for a 3 years average, and we can see in Israel, Kuwait, and Egypt, and Turkey, Arab Emirates, and Saudi Arabia, Iran, Jordan are still getting, but in Yemen, but I haven't get an idea about it. In Syria and some other, because some countries they don't have the data, but they are not getting protein and the sufficient protein, at least more than 75 or 80%, 80 gram per day of the protein they should get it. And when I look at the whole the area, what they exported, what they imported, and when we look at the export quantity, especially the cereal, vegetable, oil plant, fruit, and oil crops, fish, seafood, egg, and meat and milk. And when we look at this one, and especially in the area in the Middle East, there are many countries actually they have less export. Look at the data, especially in the Gulf countries and in many areas, they have a deficiency. Maybe Saudi Arabia in some area they are producing. Turkey is not so bad. Iran, where is that one? Iran is not so bad. They are producing several diverse basic food. Plant source, when we look at the import, when I look at the import, I can definitely say in the different area and in the area, people are importing the much more food. When I look at the differences between import and export differences, and I can definitely say in the most country, they are depend on import. When you look at this, the negative, it means, they are not importing, but the other positive one, they are import. And I mean, Iran, they are not importing vegetable, and Israel and Jordan and Turkey, they are not importing vegetable. And also, look at some countries, United Arab Emirates, and maybe some other countries in Israel, and also in Jordan, Kuwait. Kuwait also is so high. Lebanon, Oman, they are much more dependent on the import of the several foods, cereal, vegetable, and fruits, meat, and eggs, and milk, or whatever. Yes, at the same times, I can say you people, country like in Turkey, and they are exporting wheat, and also they importing wheat because the quality of it is changed. Sometimes because of the climate, for example, and Iran is exporting watermelon, some fruits, but after certain times when they finish their watermelon and fruits, and maybe they import it from the other sites. They can make a balance, but in generally, when I look at the big pictures, I can tell you in the all region, they are mostly importing some foods. I just make a calculation from this 37 different food items, and which countries are exporting: United Arab Emirates, Iran, and Turkey, and Egypt, and Lebanon. Yeah, don't look at the United Arab Emirates. Probably they are buying and selling, my understanding, something like that. And import, when you look at the import, and so many countries, they are much more dependent on the import. Look at this one, and the important dependency. this United Arab Emirates, it's a question mark, and Iran and Turkey, Egypt, Lebanon, Yemen, Jordan, and Israel, they are still, but after the Israel, Saudi Arabia, Syrian and Saudi Arabia, Kuwait and Iraq, Bahrain, and those countries are much more depend on the import. I mean, nearly look at these sites, and more from the Egypt to other countries, more than 50% of the food it depends on import from outside. Food import and the food export differences is getting more and more and getting larger in terms of money, in terms of the size. So the food security is dependent on the foreign help and the consumption and production differences in different area. And in Saudi Arabia, Yemen, and the other area, the consumption is getting bigger and bigger. So what can be done? So many things can be done. It is a holistic perspective. We have to think about, again, the food is coming from the soil. The soil, plant, and atmosphere relationship should be reconsidered to keep the soil fertility, safe food production, several management system. The problem of the safe food distribution and the reaching the dinner table is a political and administration situation. In these cases, many scientific area and scientific field and institutions, state and international organizations need to work together. And we understood this COVID-19 era, it was once again understood that the food production and security is an integral problem, and at the same time is a political problem. The solution also is a politics, and it must be handled under public access. What we can do to increase the production, how we can secure the food security can be supplied. Maybe farmers need to be supported, local people, and plant production and ecological base of the production. The organization, maybe it is important. We can have look at again the new plant species, especially for the water consuming, the water use efficiency, soil tillage management, mulching, studying the conservation and soil organic matter, organic carbon, keeping soil surface with the different plant species. Fertilizer use is still, we have a fertilizer use deficiency, and especially in our area. And when you look at the compared the world and the other sides, and the Western societies still are using less fertile fertilization, and the production also is low. And we need a new technology. And we need new technology for this area, for the future challenge, for the soil quality, food security, and we can be overcome with using the technology, maybe the transfer of the new technology, modern agriculture, mechanization, management. We need it in nanotechnology, biotechnology, the fertilizer use and fertilizer sources increasing, integrated technology. We need it maybe. Definitely we need the communication and the research institution and to make an integration and training the people, training the farmers, training the society, training the managers, the government managers to increase the awareness of these COVIDs and the climate change and the futures problem. So also we need to have again to think about our safety food and safety life. Maybe we should return back to our roots, go back to deal with the soil, go back with our village. Maybe some people, they should have a new production approaches, ecological habitats to produce and a safe life, not the consuming too much. And then nearly so far, we know in the developing countries, 30 and 40% of the food are producing are just thrown away. They are not using. So the Minister of Health and Minister of Agriculture should work together and keep the community health. They can make a legislation, they can make a working together to increase the food quality, to increase the nutrition level of the people, to help the disabled people. They has a problem to reach the food. And they can concentrate on the climate change, environmental factors. Maybe because of the environmental factors, climate change, so many new disease species, they can be erupted, they can occur in the futures. Under this climate change, disease factor should be very considered very much, especially in our area. This COVID-19, maybe it will take a little bit longer. So that's why we should think about. Some measurement also should be gotten by the government. As I said, this is a politic problem. So especially in our region, reorganization of the stable food stocks, the food reservation and the stocks should be reconsidered because we don't know how long it will take it. Self-sufficiency for the basic food should be reconsidered. Each country, they should have a new planning systems. For example, if I talk about the Turkey, we are producing over 140 different definite foods, but in some area we have a self-sufficiency. In some area we have a less sufficiency. But when I look at the Middle East countries, and most of the country, because of climate and water scarcity and the high heat and the soil fertility condition, some plants may not grow. But again, they have a serious problem for self-sufficiency. They are much more dependent on the foreign and outside food import. Just in case of this COVID and the future and a possible climate change, and those society also, they should think about this self-sufficiency of the food. So what I'm going to say, finally, let's go to work together, and to share and to understand each other, to cooperate it together, and for the better life, for the better futures. And thank you very much.
روحي هناك اسمعي انا مسكر
الميكروفون. فتحت المايك.
Now we can receive some questions. I think Dr. Azhar sent a few questions earlier. So if you are there, Dr. Azhar, please take...
Yes, I'm here.
Please, go ahead.
I've sent you a list of questions, but I will not ask all of them because there are too many of them.
You're right.
I will ask a couple of questions. That question is down to the earth. There are two rivers called Euphrates and Tigris. Could you tell us how many barrages are on these rivers?
Oh, barrage. Yes. I think so far it was planning to have something like 14. So far, I think they built up 3 or 4, the biggest one, but still they are planning to have more.
Yeah. Second question is about these two rivers, because they are going to other countries also. What are the rules to share the water of these two rivers with Syria and Iraq?
Well, to me, I always said the water is not belong to anyone. It's belong to whoever is using. So who need it, who use it, and
now,
everybody.
What share is for the down country? Is it 50%?
Yeah, I don't know too much about that area, as I said.
All right.
This is a politic situation, but to me, we should know, if we know how to share, if you understand, especially this COVID-19 shown us, if the basic need is food,
And the last question of this is what's the source of water for these rivers? In the rain and the mountain glaciers, what's the ratio?
The ratio?
I'm asking about the source of water for these two rivers.
Yes.
What's the part of rain and what's the part of mountain glaciers?
I think it's mainly it's coming from the snow, because if there is no snow and the water sources is coming down very recently because of climate change. And
another question is the food security for Turkey. What part is is assured by the local production? What part is imported?
yeah, it depends of the plant species. Some plants, especially tomato and sometimes the pepper and citrus, potato, and such kind of the plants, usually they have a big market in Russia. In the past, there was in the Middle East, and that times nearly the 25 and 30% of the production is going to export. And that times really in the Turkish poorest people, they are suffering because that times the price is going up. The currency is so high. One Turkish lira is nearly $1, sorry, is equal to a Turkish lira. And 1 year ago, it was 4. So in that cases, the poorest people, they are really getting problem to get to purchase the food. But in the citrus, the majority is going exported, and the tomato, especially under the greenhouses in Antalya and the south part of Turkey, is going up.
Last question is, are there any signs of desertification in Turkey?
Yes, in the central Anatolia, around the Konya, Ankara, and in the east part of Turkey, the precipitation is 300 to 200 millimeters, and the biggest problem in the future is maybe in the desertification in the central Anatolia to the eastern.
Thank you very much for your exhaustive talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Asghar. I noticed that there are some participants who had some questions on the chat. They can present their questions online, just talking or asking these questions, if possible.
Yes, please. Yes.
May I ask a question?
Go ahead.
If you allow, I can ask question. So
Yeah,
I'm
go
Ahmed
ahead.
from Uzbekistan. So my question is the following. Ibrahim Koja, çok güzel. So my question concerning modified food. So for example, you see 20, 30 years ago when we were in the former stage, so we did not have this modified food, but now we have more and more technical food. So what is your prognosis? What you can say about it? Because the quality of food is becoming non-natural, because natural food was more attractive, more good. And now the quality of food is going down, especially if you go to meat, it is chicken, and if you go to potato and so on. So what you can predict on this direction?
Yes. What should I say? To me, actually, always I try to relate it so many problems with the population. The population, since is so high, and the people recently they moved from the countryside to the big cities, and all over the world, the big cities has been growing up nearly more than 75% of the population are living in the big cities. The agricultures in the countryside has been neglected, and people, they want to get an preserved food. And we understood in the last 50, 60 years, and yes, these preserved foods, because we developed the technology. I am supporting the technology, but sometimes we human, we made the big mistakes. So the preserved food, and we understood, especially in the developing countries, the people, they found that there is a huge cancer and vascular problem in the health. And so again, to me, we have to return back, and maybe some people, they should go back, they should stay in the countryside. They should have a small, sustainable, and a small farm, and the homemade food, because finally it is a 60, 70, 80 years of the life. So most of the educated people recently, they realized this life is not so much sustainable, cannot be continued like this.
Okay, teşekkür.
Thank you. Dr. Butt, you have a question.
Thank you very much. Partly, it has been answered by Professor Ibrahim regarding the population. I think it's a very important problem. I gave in my question one example, but there are others where the population has been reduced as the first important aspect in food security. And of course, other improvements. For example, Bangladesh has reduced the population growth from 3% to something over 2%. So as an Islamic country. So what are your views on this very important aspect of food security related to the population?
Yeah, I mean, I show the pictures, and when I correlated so many parameters to each other, we can work this one. And definitely, if your population is increased, the food is not changed actually too much. I mean, what should I say? The food production is not changed too much. Actually, last 100 years, we again made a big problem because of the cities when they grow up, and the urbanization around the big cities, and they occupied the first and second class of the fertile soil. So the land size is the same, but the population is increased. At the same time, the per percent of the landowner is getting low, and the food production is not increasing too much. I mean, let's say, as I said, in Turkey, last 20 years, we are producing the same quantity of the wheat, 20 million. But in the 2000, there was a population of 60 million, but now today is 85 million. The quantity is the same. And
the alarming situation in these countries that they must control the population?
I think, all over the world, not only the one country, all over the world, the population is so high because it is not sustainable. It's not secure for the future. It's not secure. So we should make a decision, especially in our area. I mean, when I look at the Middle East countries, the population, especially in the Islamic country, the growth rate is so high. I mean, in 9 or 10 kids, so we can understand, you cannot supply the education and food and the other healthy life situation. So we have to make a decision. Yes, we have so many problems. I mean, I will be really happy to discuss with the people like very distinguished people. I know these Iranian people, they are very keen to do something. But again, we have to think, we have to talk our problem. And our problem really is so big. I've been in Jordan, I have been in Kuwait and Lebanon and Israel and whatever. I really like to visit in those areas. But to me, The problem is mainly is agriculture and food. Think about too much. And Egypt and Tunisia and Algeria and in Iraq, in Syria, the problem behind is really the food. It's really soil. I should definitely say this is the problem of soil, the soil fertility, organic carbon, organic matter. And this is related with the population. Duari, he wants to say.
Can I come back on the population, if you allow me? You know, the population in Pakistan is increasing out of control.
Yes.
And in Turkey and in Iran, they are pushing for the increase of population officially. Why?
Why? Because the politician, you know, they think if we grow up too much, you know, we will beat somebody else.
Nothing can be done about that.
What should I say? You know, it's a matter of the great knowledge, you know, what you want to do. You should have, as I said, the planning is not only the agriculture planning, also for your planning. So what you want to do, where you want to reach it. Doesn't matter. You have you have a 10 son, or you have so many soldiers. If you have a very sufficient, if you have a well-equipped humans, the human quality, you know, it's very important. Do you have an education, a high education, and do you produce mathematics? Mathematics. And always I said, we have so many good scientists, you know, they've been educated. I have been educated. And the mathematics book in the Cambridge and Oxford and Harvard and the mathematics in your country, in my country, people are using, they get the same classes. But one is using to make a technology, the other one it cannot be able to convert it. So we should increase the educated society, not that the big population. The big population, they are running from one side to the other side. They are beating every day each other. So what should I do? Sometimes, you know, we are getting upset, but unfortunately we have to accept it. This population and less educated, less developed, less fed people, they are not going to be very successful. They are not going to be happy, actually. I should say that all societies are not happy. They are not happy. Sorry, Dr. Askan.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the question.
May I ask Dr. Abdullah? Thanks for the speaker. I want to ask about the genetically modified crops in Turkey. Okay, what is the status of this?
Yes, actually, officially, we are not supporting genetically modified crops, but maybe you realize in my presentation, we are producing quite lots of poultry, chicken or whatever. So for animal food, we are allowing to import genetically modified maize and soybean or whatever, okay? But for production, Turkish legislation doesn't allow. To me, yes, I support the working the genetic material. We have to keep the genetic material, but still we are not sure the genetically modified production is healthy for the human. We need more research. If it is safe, then we can make a decision. But in last 30, 40 years, and people are, some small groups, they say there is no problem, but still is not sufficient enough, the research. because to me also the biotechnology doesn't make too much sense to increase the production. Biotechnology made the help for enzymes and vitamin and some vaccination system. For the plant production, I think the genetically modified production doesn't make any big sense. Still, we do need to do some more research, and also the consumption of the genetically modified food should be carefully thinking about the use.
Dr. Noor,
Very quickly related to the biotechnology, nanotechnology is coming up in very recent years via nanofertilizers and controlled seed release and so on. And what are your views in Turkey? There are very strong groups in Bilkent and in other places on the use of nanotechnology. Is some group working on these lines with the new technologies?
I don't think so. There's a few people are working the nanotechnology, a few, maybe in technology. But Turkey, in terms of the biotechnology, usually the people, let me say frankly, because, this the Turkish, maybe in all over the world, the 5% of the societies, they are the clever people, the well-educated people. Mainly those people are going to work in the medical science and engineering or whatever. For biology and agriculture, the people are coming recently. The academic knowledge is a little bit low. And especially in the biology, the students, the bright students, they are not preferring to go that kind of area, and agriculture as well, maybe the same in your countries. So to me, and the biotechnology people was just trying to make a macro propagation or whatever, but it doesn't make big sense. But in terms of the nanotechnology, maybe in the chemistry and the technology are using, most of the people also, the producers, they're getting the knowledge, they're importing. But we need it, especially for the Middle East. That's why I said we need new technology. The new technology, for example, in our area, the water deficiency and the fertilizer, maybe this nanotechnology, nanoparticles, using the less degraded fertilizer, and some of them, they should be keeping in the soil against the degradation and the heat or whatever. So in order to increase the production in our area, we need a new advanced technology. I do agree. Definitely we need it. But first of all, we should know what we wanted and what is our future perspective. If we make a decision, maybe we will be successful.
Can I ask a question on soil, please?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go ahead, Dr. Azhar.
My problem is, because we know that due to over-exploitation, a lot of soil is getting tired. What do you think about that?
Well, if I found that anyone is make it tired the soil, I will get angry. So yes, very recently we realized the soil quality, soil health is coming down because our management, the human management, we less manage it. Because some farmers are very hungry to get them more food, more money or whatever. It doesn't everything's the more money. The soil are really exhausted. How long it had been? Maybe last 100 years because of the tractors. We have a heavy tillage using too much fertilizer. Some places using too much chemicals and extensive production. And also we removed all the plant material taken out from the area to outside, and then we burn the surface. I challenge with too much, even in the Turkey. Challenge. And sometimes I fight with the police on whatever. Because, you know, even the government doesn't know, you know, what is it is running around it. They lose their soil. They lose their future. And then when your soil is poor, and you have to buy more fertilizer, more important fertilizer. We import it, you import it. And the soil are really exhausted. I can definitely see this one is a big issue, especially in your area because of the high temperatures, the degradation of the organic material is so high. It's so bad, actually. I'm so upset about that situation because all food is coming from the soil. There is no way to escape. I mean, yes, in the under the greenhouse condition, we produce, some people said we can have a agriculture or whatever. Okay, but still it's not more than 3 or 4% of the production. The biggest production is coming still in the land.
Okay, is there any other questions? If there is not, I have a question for you, Dr. Ortash. How the closure and movement restriction during the pandemic affected the food supply value chain, starting from production into transit and transport, into market, into consumers in Turkey?
We haven't been affected too much at the beginning because of when the state government make a decision to 3 weeks, some area, people, when they stay at home, inside the home, suddenly it was a panic that time. We are very lucky. It was not the beginning of the production systems, but later on, the government, they make a decision, the food deliveries and food producers and the farmers, they're out of these restrictions. And not too much has been affected, but it doesn't mean it's not going to be a problem. I always said, yes, Turkey is one of the self-supplying food. But again, if the farmers, if the producers, if the food deliveries has not been organized properly, always this kind of problem can be done. But also because, you know, our societies, maybe you have the same one, and people are supporting each other. Even not, you know, your neighbors, he's just asking knock at your door, do you have some problem, you know, just look at this food and I cook it, you know, people are sharing still some food with each other, not like in Western society.
Any more questions from the audience?
You know,
Yeah, Dr. Noor, please.
I want to come back to the genetically modified crops. You know, crops have been modified over years or centuries automatically. The problem now is which is a very dangerous, is the commercial genetically modified problem. Can you say something about that?
Yeah, I mean, this problem has been started after the 1950 when the population was growing up. They thought, you know, it's going to be a big problem. And partly they are very successful, the Green Revolution. Like in China and India, still the food demand is so high, more than 50% of the population in that area. But the Americans, they don't need for the modified foods, but they are producing. And they are asking some societies, some Asian, South Americans, you know, they're producing that area as well. It's the commercial area. It's a commercial area, but still, to me, I just make a calculation, and the world population is around 8 billion. Maximum this land and this soil can compensate up to 9 and 9.5 billion society, not more. But the biggest problem to me is now is the food distribution.
Yes.
The food distribution, how can we make easy to deliver it? I mean, in the Europe, they are producing 20 ton per decars of the tomato, but in Africa, they are producing 2 or 3 tons. So in Africa and Asia, the biggest problem, I think, still is the water and the management of the agriculture inputs and the planning and the income, of course. The farmers are not very wealthy to get the fertilizer. They are not very wealthy to make a technology, to get the technology. I mean, so many things, you know, is running side by side. And also there's so many agriculture problem, because we have one side is nature, and one side is the income and the condition, you know, on the one side is the human management. I mean, as you asked me, the water problem and the management and the genetically modified, all those are, and they are in the same, under the same umbrella.
Can I ask another question? Because you have not talked about it. What's the situation of tea and coffee production in Turkey?
Sorry, say again?
Of the tea and coffee production in Turkey.
Oh, tea and coffee. No, we don't have the coffee, but we have a tea plantation in the north side of the Turkey, in the Black Sea side, in the one province, small province, but it is not sufficient, but it's not so bad. Recently, people are using too much fertilizer, and we found that, you know, the soil pH has come down. 2 years ago, there was a very heavy rain, and there's so much land from the mountain area come down in the city and the Black Sea. I write some things. If you want to have a tea plantation, you should know, you know, what the soil and what the plants they needed. In some cases, because of our agricultural knowledge, maybe is not sufficient, even in between the scientists. But we lose quite a lot of soil. And after you lose your soil, and of course the production is coming down. But we don't have the coffee plantation. And the Turkish people, you know, they get the coffee from Yemen. Is there somebody from Yemen? And in the past, we get from the Habeshistan, Ethiopia, and Yemen. And then they pass to Europe, the Turkish coffee, but not is the Turkish coffee, but the preparation is the Turkish coffee preparation.
More questions? Okay.
Yeah, by this way, thank you very much. I don't know how many people are watching this program, but especially for the scientific area, I am working in the University south of Turkey in the soil science. I'm a plant nutritionist, but also I deal with agriculture and soil history. I deal with, this is my hobby, is the philosophy of soil, actually, you can say. The sociology of the soil. Anyway, if there is any scientists are listening to this program, I think we should make a big program, especially these Islamic wars, the climate change, water deficiency, productivity is very important. If anyone are dealing this kind of problem, we can make a big regional projects. We should think about how we can increase the productivity, how we can increase the soil carbon and productivity, soil health, because the area has so much problem, and there is a new, so many new areas to work, to cooperate it, to find some solution and a new technology. I don't know what, but and the nanotechnology or whatever, we have to think about. We have to develop some idea. If there is a question, it means there is a solution. We have to find a solution. There is a question, there is a problem. The food security, as I said, is not secure. The area much more depend on the import. But
yeah, Dr. Ortash, is Turkey a member of the Union for Mediterranean Forum? Because this is a forum that will coordinate research in food security in the Mediterranean area.
I don't know too much, really. I don't know.
If you find out, please let me know, because I am one of the experts on that union, so we can join forces somehow to do some joint research.
Yeah, I will look at it. And also, please, you have my email. If there is something like that, just pass me through email. And
okay.
I will also pass in all groups and friends. I have a big internet connection with the Turkish scientists because, we have to bring the people, just make a collaboration, because our futures it depends of the food. There is nothing else. We have to think about food security. So, Dr. Akshar, he was asking, and Nurbut, and the water, and the sharing the water, and the two rivers. So many things. People should talk to each other, At least we are human. We should know how to share and how to bring together the knowledge and to build up a new knowledge, actually. In the past, yes, okay, do agree with this several things. People are fighting to each other, and the empires were fighting to each other, the Ottoman and Arabs and Egypt, and Iranian, Persian, or whatever. Leave it those one in the past. Yeah, okay, happened. I'm not running go to the past. We have to look at the futures. We have to think, what we can do. What we can do for the futures.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Dr. Ortash, for this enlightening speech of yours about food security. And we hope that we will stay in contact with you for further involvement in our activities.
Thank you. I'm very happy, actually. I was very happy. Again, I have an email whenever, if anyone to have some knowledge and sharing. I'm talking by myself. I'm not any official or whatever, but I'm personally I'm the side of the human. I'm the side of the nature. I always supported any kind of this. Sharing knowledge and sharing the life, actually, we should say sharing the life.
Well, thank you. I also would like really to thank all participants who spare no time in attending this very fruitful discussions. And I hope to see you again in our next session on this very important topic.
All the best, all the best. Allah Hafiz, Khuda Hafiz, but the big forbidden kiss.
Thank you very much. Professor, all the best. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yes.
Thank you, Professor Alwas.
We will see you in the future also, of course.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
All the best, all the best.
All the best.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you.
All the best.
I see Dr. Shanshal and Dr. Lama.
Ortash.
Ortash.
مع السلامة.